Hello, welcome to Jaws Week 3. It is Wednesday, and usually I work on Mondays as well. However, I was out of town visiting some lovely friends in Ohio, and this also means, because I returned late last night, that I was unable to get the parts for the moving arm that I was hoping to build today. So instead, we're in my basement, and I am going to do some research about the skull casts that I'm eventually going to make. I haven't gone into a lot of detail about this before on the videos, I believe. The goal is to create models of skulls that I can put into Jaws. We're not worried about breaking. Real skulls are very expensive, so don't want to mess with those. There have been several suggested ideas as to how to make this work. There's just casting an entire skull. I'm looking for a material to construct these out of that is a little bit more durable than the 3D printing plastic and that behaves a little bit more like the bone I'm trying to replicate. I've done some preliminary research, nothing too extensive, into bone making materials. I could get something 3D printed out of a material that they use in the medical field. We're looking for a cheaper alternative that still can do the same thing. Something harder than 3D printing plastic. With that, I'm really afraid of shearing. I'd love to 3D print out what we need and then use a casting method to make a different version of it. That way we only have to 3D print once and we can reuse it if the skulls get broken. There was also suggested somewhere making a skull and then putting in real teeth. I don't know how that would work. So if you watch these videos and you have ideas, please let me know. I'm going to do some research today into probably how to make casts. I think that's one of my first things because I can get materials to make a cast without actually getting the material to be casted. And that's something I'd like to do once I get back to campus in July, so I might send some things ahead to the lab to be there when I get there. But I just wanted to make a little something so you know what I'm doing. I'll update at the end of today with what I've found. Alright, so I've been on YouTube watching videos about how to make silicone molds and then how to cast things from them. I accidentally found out that apparently the Shore durometer hardness of bone is about 75. They make different kinds of urethane resins that fill those silicone molds at different durometer hardnesses. Shore hardnesses. It's like the unit of measurement for how hard something is. You can get different resins of different quality that harden to different hardnesses, so that actually worked out really conveniently. However, I'm looking at the site that he recommended. It's like Smooth On, and they have both the silicone and the urethane, so like both the part to make the mold and also the stuff that I'd make the cast out of. They have so many products that it's overwhelming. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to make the mold out of, but the mold isn't as important as what's going to be cast. I think I'm going to try to do some more research into this. I'm about halfway through lab hours today. And there's some with like aluminum in them. One is similar to ABS plastic. I just don't know exactly how strong this needs to be because I'm sure a lot of this is probably more than it needs to be. So I think I need to find out more about the bones. Something else I seem to keep forgetting is that teeth aren't bones. Teeth are made of something different than bones. So teeth actually aren't very— oh, hi, Mar. That's my dog. Bone are living tissue, but teeth are not, so they're made of different things. Which presents a little problem when it was like, we could have cast the entire thing, but we can't cast it out of the same stuff, because it all behaves differently. Doesn't it? It all behaves differently. Oh, why'd you lick my leg? That was cute. So I'm not entirely sure what I want to do here. So it sounds like I could make the skull out of really anything as long as it was rigid enough to retain its shape. And the reason that I'm not doing just a jaw was because the overall shape of the skull does impact how the bite is laid out, and also like how the jaws hinge together. My big concern there is just making sure everything's laid out, and the best way to do that is just to print the whole skull. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about the teeth versus the bone, because your teeth and bone are very different, but I don't know if it's necessarily different enough to warrant extra effort. I just simply need to know if I'm exerting force on something that is supposed to replicate bone, how much force does it need to be able to handle? And it's proving difficult to find those answers. I don't know if I'm looking in the wrong places or anything like that. This was a good thing to figure out now, though, especially now that I know I can use urethane resin, which is really easy to use compared to other materials. I was concerned about like a casting material, but it turns out urethane resin is pretty darn strong, so I can use it. I just need to know what variety, because apparently there's like a million varieties of urethane resins. So that's probably all for today. That's like worthy of documenting. See you tomorrow. Good morning, it's Thursday, and it's time to work on JAWS in its actual form. I just bought some more 2x4 this morning so I can construct the working arm, which should be really easy. I'm just planning on screwing together two 2x4s. And then I also bought some eye hooks. One problem is all the tools that I'm using are not my personal tools. They are my father's, and I don't actually know where he keeps everything. So I might have to wait until a later date when he's home. It's a short lab day anyway today. I'm just hoping to get a little bit of done. Wow, there's a big spider over there. It's kind of distracting, even though I'm fine with spiders. Okay, this is just adorable to me. This cute little bag of Ace Hardware things. So I have some absolutely massive screw hooks because I'm concerned about the top of the frame of JAWS. Sliding a bolt through it may just kind of be bad. By sliding a bolt through the top frame, then I have this extra just hanging thread, because the thickness that I would want from the actual eye of the eye hook bolt would be so thick that the tail would be just as long. At least that's what I was seeing at Ace. So I got a screw one for that top. It only came in groups of 2. As well as it's a bolt that theoretically should fit through to screw together 2x4s. So I'm going to measure and cut my 2x4 where I want it to go, and then screw it together, and then from there we'll see if I can find the tools to install this and this. I know what I need, I just have no idea where it is. So yeah, that might be an issue. Ha ha ha, just kidding. Before we do that, we get to play with JAWS for a little bit. We run into an issue where the moving arm is essentially sitting on a fulcrum, which will be the skull, right? So if the arm needs to pull up, eventually there's a point where the back end of the board will be driven into the table that the skull is resting on. By that logic, I need a shorter board. I might even go up to like 32 inches and then have a 2-inch overhang on the front, just so I can make sure the bolt that I'm attaching doesn't whack into the table itself. That might not be a good idea. So I'm also realizing that I, again, can't measure to save my life. I promise I can read and count, but apparently not for this project. Little tiny 2x4 that I attached to sit on the 1x4 frames I added is just not straight. I'm gonna fix that. Okay, everything's on a right angle now, which is great. Why I caught this is because I wanted to make sure that I could see where the skull was sitting before I decided to make any final adjustments to the length of the moving arm. So, yeah. So it's about 26 inches from the edge of the table to about where the middle of the skull should be sitting, and therefore the fulcrum of this little teeter-totter. So I've decided to add 4 inches extended past the front so I can attach that bolt and have plenty of room so it won't smack into the table. Then I will also have 4 inches on the back end. So that brings the total measurement to 34 inches. So I'm gonna cut my 2x4 now. I will say there are very few tasks in this world that compare to doing anything while listening to the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, because it's like ridiculously emboldening. And I'm like, yeah, I can plug in an extension cord. As you can see, I've put screws in it on both sides. And on this side, I have marked where my bolt's gonna go through. That line is marked skull. If my arm is the skull, in theory, this end will get winched up and down like that. So I guess the big question is what's next? What's left? Well, I have to get that bolt in, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that today. And then I get to attach this to the frame. I'll also probably put one here on the back, but I think that's going to call it for this week. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get those eye hooks in on Monday. JAWS is ready to come to Indiana. That's all I can do from here. So that's pretty exciting. I guess that concludes week 3. Yay!